Hey, critics, welcome back to the Critic Chronicles YouTube channel where you get commentary, reviews, and tabloid news. I'm your host, Patricia Hartley. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. It's Monday, June the 17th, 2024. Hey, critics, it's time to chronicle. Up first, let's tap into some of the top talk shows of the week. On Sherry Shepherd on Wednesday, Luke James is going to be stopping by. And then on Thursday, the bestie, Niecy Nash Betts, is going to be stopping by the show. And then Jennifer Hudson on Tuesday. Asia Wilson. Remember, Asia actually just finished doing a record. I believe she had like a 25-point straight game for like a certain amount of games, maybe like 12 or so. Don't take my word for it now. Listen to my previous episode that I did on yesterday where I talked all about her. You can also check out her brand new book as well. It's actually on Libby. So Libby is a free platform to check out books through your local library. All you got to do is just get your library card. On Tamron Hall, Tuesday, she's going to have Keenan Thompson. He's going to be stopping by to talk about his brand new book, and check out the name of it, y'all. The name of it is called When I Was Your Age: Life Lessons, Funny Stories, and Questionable Parenting Advice from a Professional Clown. So Keenan's going to be stopping by to talk about that. And then on Wednesday, Lil Jon and Uncle Luke is going to be stopping by Tamron Hall. I can only imagine what that's going to be. I come from the butterfly, that's old. I come from that. Snap your fingers. Do you still? We ain't even gonna say some of the Uncle Luke songs. We just gonna say that ass. Catch all the weekday talk shows. You can check out your local listings for those showtimes. And I hope that everybody had a fantastic Father's Day weekend. I hope that they enjoyed the Juneteenth celebrations as well. Although we have not officially reached Juneteenth, and I know some people get a little confused, who may be outside of the culture in terms of what exactly the date of Juneteenth is. So Juneteenth is actually June the 19th. Yes, and it serves as Independence Day for Black folks. It's when folks specifically in Texas found out that ain't no feeling like being free. So it's a big celebration. I'm a Texas girl, so we've consistently celebrated it. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later on Wednesday as well. And I don't know if y'all had a chance to catch the Tonys, but we're gonna definitely talk about the Tonys and my hoopla picks in honor of the Tonys include the following. I have, of course, five, and it's also, I guess, in honor of Black Music Month, right? So it's kind of like it can serve as both Black Music Month, but then also Broadway as well. So the Wiz Broadway, the Cats recording is actually a 2024 release. Deborah Cox is actually on the album. You can find that actually on Hoopla, which is again another free platform that's available through your local library. All you got to do is just get your library card. And if you haven't noticed, actually, Deborah Cox actually has been making her rounds to many of the talk shows. She's been doing some performances. I think like a couple of months ago, she did a performance on The Talk. She's also been on, I believe, Tamron Hall, where she also did a performance. I think didn't she surprise Tamron Hall a few years ago for one of her birthdays as well, Deborah Cox. Yeah, I remember. Shout out to Deborah Cox. Yeah, it was Tamron Hall's 53rd birthday. She did a surprise for her. So I'm so excited. I know y'all hear me talk about Broadway a lot and all the time, but it's because my undergrad, y'all, was in theater. So your girl was really deep into theater. And my thespians, correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't have all of this type of representation. Now, I'm talking about The Wiz. We know that The Wiz is a play that's dated back to what I think the 70s or so, right? So yes, we've had some, but I'm talking about the growth. I'm talking about brand new plays, not the same old that we've had for years on Broadway. And nothing's wrong with the classics, you know. However, there's always room for growth, and I do believe that Broadway right now is growing. And speaking of growing, Candy Burr, she has her foot in everything. She does not mind growing. She's also credited with being a producer along with husband Todd Tucker for The Wiz. I mentioned that in a few episodes as well, just kind of how they've gotten into the Broadway field to And Candy's actually been in it for a while. I think she actually has done Broadway before, like back in the 90s or so. So I mean, Candy's been in it. Her husband has been a producer for things even prior to their marriage, I believe. So they've been into it. But the thing I love about Candy is Candy does not play. She gonna have a podcast. She gonna have a clothing line. She gonna have a clothing store. She gonna produce something. She gonna come out with some knick-knack paddywhacks, give a dog a bone. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, that's why we have bedroom Candy. We ain't gonna talk any more about that. And then the second one is Black Nativity. It's gospel on Broadway. It's actually a 2017 released album, but it's from the, I believe, 1962 version. It's the retelling of the traditional New Testament account of the nativity story. And then, of course, the classic, The Color Purple, the music from the original Broadway cast. So not, of course, from the movie. So if you watch the actual 80s movie of The Color Purple, that include, of course, Whoopi Goldberg, Oprah Winfrey, Danny Glover, all of the folks. The Color Purple musical, the music is definitely a lot different. My favorite song from the musical for The Color Purple is actually Hell No. And that's a song, I believe that's led by Sophia when she's saying Hell No. So that's my favorite one from there. Now, from the actual movie itself, that's a whole nother conversation. But the most memorable had to be God's Trying to Tell Me Something. And that memory comes from childhood of me and my cousin Broderick actually watching the movie. So let me stop name dropping and get back into what I'm supposed to be talking about. The Tina Turner musical. It's also available on Hoopla. It's the 2019 version, and it has the original cast from the original start of the Tina Turner musical. And then of course the classic Dreamgirls. And I'm not, when I say classic, I mean the classic 1982 Jennifer Holliday. Come on now. Loretta Devine. Let them know. Cheryl Lee Ralph, that edition, baby. The original Dreamgirls, shout out to them. I actually had a chance, y'all, to meet Cheryl Lee Ralph when I was in college. She was so sweet. She had the biggest smile, and she was doing a one woman show. So I went to a convention, and she was putting on essentially just this one woman show, and I believe it was in support of her foundation, which was around HIV and AIDS. And so she's always been a philanthropist, and so shout out to Cheryl Lee Ralph. I mean, this was years well, I guess not that many years ago, but this was, some time again when I was a collegiate. So shout out to Cheryl Lee Ralph, the one of the original Dream Girls. And I've been talking a lot about Hoopla, but Hoopla, as a reminder, is the free digital platform that's accessible through your local library. Here at the Critic Chronicles, our goal is to provide quality but juicy content from websites, digital magazines, and tabloids, most of which are sourced from public libraries. Research from the National Library of Medicine show that there are an estimated 17,000 public libraries nationwide, totaling 4 million visits each day. Public libraries are civic organizations that are committed to providing invaluable resources beyond books that are free and open to the public. Get your library card to access thousands of resources today. Critics, it's time for critical news you can use. Y'all know the Tony Awards was last night, so we're going to recap on the biggest winners and best performances. Plus, Charles Barkley, he's going to be retiring in 2025. But what does that mean for inside the NBA? And speaking of sports, the WNBA introduces me to a flagrant foul. Don't worry about it. We're going to break it all down, y'all. So let's start up first with the Tony Awards. It was the 77th year for the Tony Awards. Shout out to the critics over in Florida who reminded me of the biggest night for Broadway. This is the Academy Awards for Broadway, okay? As reported back on our May 25th episode, the Tony Awards took place on June the 16th, and Hell's Kitchen, which is a musical loosely based off the earlier years of Alicia Keys and her career, as well as growing up in New York. She was nominated. I'm sorry, nominated for the 13 Tony Awards. However, I believe they only took home 2 awards. It was hosted by Oscar-winning actress Ariana DeBose. She's known. I actually remember her from her role in West Side Story a few years ago. I'm sure she has a lot more to her resume. However, that's in terms of like where I acknowledge her from is definitely from that West Side Story. And also apparently she's also hosted two previous Tony Award shows. She opened up the show with a musical number of her own, and some of the highlights, y'all, of the night includes a special Tony Award. It went to Nakia Mathis for her Broadway contribution to wigs and their hair on Broadway. Shout out to that. Malia Joy Moon won for her role in Hell's Kitchen as lead actress. Also, George C. Wolfe received the Tony Lifetime Achievement Award. Kara Young won for featured actress in a play. And I know I'm kind of getting off topic just a little bit, but y'all know how I am sometimes. But in undergrad, when I actually did theater, one of the first places I was introduced to makeup that was my skin tone was through Ben Nye, and Ben Nye was the I guess the makeup should have looked this up before I start talking about it. But it was the makeup company that our theater program went through in order to order makeup. I'm sure that there was other resources as well that they used, but I'm specifically talking about what worked for me. But it was Ben Nye, and it was stores that I couldn't find. Now, I have to say MAC, MAC, so MAC Cosmetics, that was another place where I actually found it. But in terms of in theater, Ben Nye was one of the first places, even outside of it. Like there was times where I actually used my theater makeup for, going to one of the Greek parties or, something like that. Anyway, getting back on track. Hopefully, I'm not repeating myself, but Didi Yite won for Jaja's African hair braiding for costume design in a play. Haven't had a chance to see that one. That's actually a newer play, right? So we think about plays such as So is Hell's Kitchen, of course. Want to say that as well because I didn't verify that that was also a newer one. But we see stuff like The Wiz, which is again a classic. You see stuff like Dreamgirls, which is again a classic. Nothing's wrong with the classics. And there's definitely not enough classics, I think, in terms of Black musical theater, period. So I do want to be very direct when I say that. But I also feel like there's just not enough plays on Broadway being written, right? That's really for the culture. Let's just say it like that. I don't feel like it's enough that's being written, but I'm so glad that Alicia Keys stepped in. You know what was smart too about Alicia Keys writing Hell's Kitchen? They say it was an 11-year project. That's what the reports say. They said that this was an 11-year project. Is that she incorporated her music as well. So the music that she has from her, and of course people are like, well, it's roughly based off her life, da 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 da. But you think about sometimes these musicals on Broadway, they don't always have the same music as what they had in the movie or even in like the life of, so good that Alicia was able to keep a lot of her music that she already has in her life for her original Broadway loosely based show called Hell's Kitchen. All right. So winning the best featured actress in a musical for her role in Hell's Kitchen was Keisha Lewis. She gave also a powerful speech. And if I can pull up this soundbite, I'm also going to go ahead and share this with you now. Again, Keisha Lewis, she won for featured actress in a musical. And this comes from the YouTube of CBS.
I would like to thank you, God, my first, my last, my everything. Thank you to the American Theater Wing and the Broadway League and every one of the fierce, fabulous female thespians in this category. I'd like to thank the entire cast on stage and off stage, the crew, the front and back of house staff at the Schubert Theater for being who they are and their hard work and support to make our show the joy that it is. I'd like to thank our creative team, Alicia Keys, Michael Greif, Christopher Diaz, Camille A. Brown, and all of our designers for their hard work and dedication as generals in leading the charge of our show. I'd like to thank my manager and friend of 15 years, Jed Abrahams, for truly seeing me and being my champion in an industry that is extremely challenging and often did not see me. Also, I thank Barrett Bischoff for his friendship and hard work. Thank you to my ENT and friend, Dr. Linda Dahl, who keeps this voce alive and well, and my vocal coach, Marlon Saunders. I'd like to thank those people in my life who wouldn't let me give up. Being in this business 40 years, I wanted to give up many times. Gabriela Diaz Gonçalves, Lisa Vidal, Daniel Coa Beatty, and my longtime friends, Adrian Lennox and LaChance. I'd like to thank my spiritual families over the years for their training and loving me just for me without having me even open my mouth and sing a note. Particularly Pastors Martin and Gail Watson, Reverend Darlene Palmer, and Dr. Hart Ramsey and Hunger Church Atlanta.
So I'm definitely going to stop it right there. But that was one of the most powerful speeches of the night. You should have seen the look on the audience face. They was up. You know how people give those speeches and you just want to like, you're with them. You don't want to go to the bathroom. You're like, oh, baby, I got to watch this. I got to see, but she has such a message of being in the industry for so long. And so proud of her and so happy for her. So it's such a relatable story too. When you come from the world of theater, you're seeing other folks who are just recipients of these very grand awards, very highly honored awards, particularly in the world of theater. Because y'all, doing theater is a different world. I've done a couple of just local, like not real, like you know what I'm saying. But I've definitely done a couple of local films. But I've definitely done a lot of theater, and then in terms of what the expectation is of theater and what you get out of it, and the day to day, the folks doing costuming, the folks doing the props. You have the folks that are behind the scenes, the folks who are producing, you have the assistant directors, you have the lighting, you have so many different elements that come along with theater. And it's a different world within this. It's such an acceptable world. That's another thing that I loved about the world of theater. Like, it's so accepting. Like, everybody, it just feels so accepting. Now, when it comes to roles, baby, it is competitive. Let's be very clear. You should not get that role. No, it's very competitive, right? But that's also it's a part of the hunger. It's a part of the bite. So anyway, getting back to what I'm supposed to be talking about, Jay-Z made another appearance. Remember, I talked about the fact that he made an appearance at the Tom Brady's Hall of Fame induction event that he had. Jay-Z came out and did a performance. Well, he also came out with Alicia Keys and did a performance. They, of course, performed the hit song Empire State of Mind. Interesting fact from our critics over at the Daily News, who reports that Jay-Z's Rock Nation is listed as a producer along with Reverend, excuse me, I'm sorry, Reverend Al Sharpton's daughter, Dominique Sharpton, and philanthropist Candy Spelling. Now, this is also a project that took, again, about 11 or so years. I'd be interested to know what that process looked like. Critics, if y'all know anything about what that process looked like, or how Alicia Keys went about that, or a resource in which I can go and reference, please be sure to let me know. Congratulations to all those who received Tony Awards last night. Feel free to check it out online in terms of those Tony Awards at Tony Awards at Tonys.com. All right, let's move forward to girls basketball. Angel Reese, I don't know if y'all have heard about it, but if you've been watching the WNBA, you absolutely know. They called something this past weekend. Let me start from the beginning. This past weekend, Indiana Fever and Chicago Sky, they were matched up. And according to the critics, the comments and the clips, things was heated. It wasn't even just this particular part that I'm going to tell you. Like, the entire game, of course, was heated. But when think about it, the last time they played, this was when they had the challenge of Kennedy Carter, as well as, Caitlin Clark, right? So of course this game is gonna be heated. I also wonder if they sold out. Y'all know they've been selling out these arenas. Shout out to the WNBA who's the WNBA fans, excuse me, who's been showing up and showing out for the WNBA. And shout out to the WNBA for showing up and showing out for the fans, okay? Because honestly, I already told y'all, baby, I am here for it. But who wasn't here for it was Angel Reese. She disagreed with a foul, actually, that was given. And they ended up calling it not only a foul, but a flagrant foul. And it was particularly against Caitlin Clark. Caitlin was going up for a one of those under the basket shots, and there was two girls that was guarding her. one of the ladies was kind of in the front, and then Angel was kind of like in the back of her a little bit. And so whenever Caitlin got ready to go put the ball up, the girl in the front, properly did the block and actually blocked the shot, so the girl could not do it. Couldn't didn't make the shot. So Angel Reese though came from behind, and she was trying to block the shot, but she ended up hitting it on the head. So they called it a flagrant foul, and that's where the flagrant part comes in. It's because it resulted in what they call unnecessary contact. So her basically hitting her head. It was like, you ain't have to do all of that. If it was the way it was supposed to be, it just would have been, I guess, from behind, and she just would have swung in the air and not hit Caitlin maybe on the head, and then maybe they wouldn't have called it that. And I know Angel, disagreed. However, based off the video, it was kind of like, okay, I wouldn't overly talk that call. I wouldn't. Okay. But we get it. We get you was just trying to block the ball, do your job. And again, got us out here talking, so we appreciate it. And I will say that Caitlin did a general response about, kind of the roughness that's happening over there in basketball. And I think she understands that it's just the game of basketball. It's not just her. I don't think y'all realize it, but it was all the rookies. They talk about the fact that when you're a rookie in the in the in the sports, not even just women's sports, but in sports in general, it's kind of like, okay, come on, game on. You finna see this ain't college basketball no more. This real basketball. Holla at your girl, right? Well, I don't know if that's what they say. Y'all know I'm not. I'm not a baller, but if I was, I'd definitely be like, you can't see me. But that's why I am on a microphone talking about the players, and I'm not actually playing. And speaking of playing, it's no surprise seeing some of the top athletes scattered across both of those teams. Ended up being a pretty talked about game. We'll say it like that. Caitlin Clark scored 22 points. Mariana Mabry ended up scoring 22 points. Kennedy Carter, 18 points. And Aaliyah Boston had her third straight double-double with 19 points and 14 rebounds. The Indiana Fever ended up winning the game against the Chicago Sky, 91-83. And continuing on with even more sports, I know I sound like I do sports over here. I really don't, but I had actually a request for the WNBA story. And then I also had to talk about the Tonys because that's just close to my heart. Additionally, on yesterday, y'all, I recorded the darn show and had to do some editing because I did some sound bites that took longer than I thought it was going to take because I don't edit the show. I'm typically live on the show, even though I still can't do live on my YouTube channel just yet. Like I'm still doing it live and I do basically no editing. If I do any editing, it's only on the uploads of the topics themselves, right? And that's again not me editing my voice. It's only the like, comment, subscribe, share, and then it's also um anything that is in the description box along with like the hashtags and things like that. So yeah. Oh, and I put a little bit of music under it. I put a little bit of I put a little bit of music, a little bit of music. And when it comes to sports, I was talking a little bit about that and how we weren't a sports show, but it sounds like it today. And Charles Barkley, I think not only is he retiring, that came out of his mouth directly. I saw that first on yahoosports.com. He stated the following. He said, no matter what happens, I can't talk like him, but if I could, I would. He said, no matter what happens, next year will be my last year on television. It sounds like it's because of changes, though, and shifts from TNT. Forbes.com reports that the Inside the NBA, which airs on TNT and has done so since like, I want to say like the late 80s, the host is going to be splitting up his longtime broadcasting partnership with fellow MVP Shaquille O'Neal and potentially putting what they're saying, critics are saying this, a dagger into their TNT show. However, Barkley believes that Warner Brothers Discovery ended up messing up the deal, and he even spoke out about it. Unfortunately, you know how it is when you speak out about either people you work for publicly on a public platform, right? It's different when it's office gossip. Yeah, it's definitely different when it's office gossip. But when you're speaking out on a public platform, plus his other two buddies, they haven't spoke out and said anything. And then they told me that Shaquille O'Neal did a cryptic message at one point in time talking about like, you know, you can replace me, but there'll never be another me. It wasn't exactly those words, but some kind of cryptic message that gave the impression that he wanted to say something. He didn't say nothing, but he said something. You know how it goes. The subliminals. The subliminals. Again, the other hosts of the show, Ernie Johnson, Kenny the Jet Smith, they've just kind of remained quiet, even though I know that Barkley is disappointed with the potential outcome, and that could be the reason why he's retiring. Although People say that he do this. He's done this a couple years ago, talking about he was gonna retire, but he's only what 60 something, 61, 62, something like that. Yeah, that's a good time actually, I think, to anything between like 50 and 61, you can get up out of there. 62, you can get up out of there. Some people say 62 is the ain't that when you can get is that when you can get Social Security? They keep saying Social Security ain't even gonna be available for us, so don't even look forward to it. But I count my blessings either way. Anyway, well, there's basically a clause they say also in Barkley's contract that's going to allow him to exit the show if there is not going to be a tie with the NBA and TNT. So that would also mean that Barkley can enjoy his payout of his $100 million contract, right? Another shift in history. Have y'all noticed that though? It's a lot of shifts that's going on in like some large areas, and that would include, Charles Barkley, let's say for example, not being the host anymore. Like, who is it? The Wheel of Fortune. He's not there anymore. That was a couple years ago. Was it a couple? Am I talking about the right show? No, I'm thinking about The Price is Right. Yep, The Price is Right was taken over a few years ago. Bob Barkley was no longer the host anymore. Then you got Ryan Seacrest that's now there. What the Wheel of Fortune? I feel like it's a matter of time before like Vanna White. You think about even some of the TV shows. The TV shows the last couple of years shifted out, so no longer the Steve Harveys. You got your Kelly Clarkson. That was a whole debacle about that, right? The whole them shifting out Steve. Did they say something to him? I think it was kind of like a shift, and they was like, yep, swift shift. And that's the same thing that happened with the Wendy Williams show, right? And it was because of her health. We definitely saw that, unfortunately, and continue to just, we still don't know. There's still a lot of mystery. I've seen a couple of things, but nothing that makes me want to say anything because I don't believe it. I do not believe it. And unfortunately, the more I think about the documentary, which also is actually available on Hoopla. So if you get a chance to look it up, there's like three things of Wendy Williams. It's like her movie that came out, her what a mess, the one where she was in her right state of mind, but she was talking about like Kevin and how she saw him and Sharina in the National Enquirer. That one is on there, and then there's also yep, the latest one, the docu series as well. So those are on Hoopla, and I guess kind of getting back to what I think I was talking about was just kind of all the shifts as it pertains to all of the hosts, the TV programs, just kind of in the last, think about the last 3 to 4 years, people that's been in place for 40 something years. You know what I'm saying? Like, even they're making shifts, even if pastors don't step down and they just kind of shift it over to their child, like for example, TD Jakes shifting kind of like the energy over to Sarah Jakes. Um, Roberts, so she can just kind of like just passing the baton, right? But again, just a lot of shifts going on. We can all kind of go back to what Cat Williams say if you want to reference that, about like everything is just kind of being exposed right now, no matter what, no matter who it is. And some of these step downs isn't because of an exposure. Some of it is just because it's time. Sometimes it is just time. There isn't always a reason, except it is time. Alrighty, y'all. I hope that y'all had a very good past Father's Day weekend. I'm also going to be coming back to y'all maybe at least once again this week, just because guess what? It is Juneteenth week, so I definitely got to come back and talk to y'all more about what's going on. And if you missed this weekend's episodes, you can still watch on Sunday. We discussed Fox Soul's TGIF. Is it getting canceled? Who knows? I know I'm going to be watching tonight to see if they actually come on. They have not been on since like last Thursday, when Al Reynolds got the roast, and then also when it was comedian Lunel who questioned if he even told his ex-wife, Star Jones, about his sexuality. That just kind of caused a whole lot of just debacle. Asia Wilson, she also breaks the WNBA record. I talk about that on Sunday's episode. And also Ricky Smiley has a brand new book. Talk about that as well. And then I discussed a little bit of Kiki's brand new girl group, Diva Girl, who's also going to be coming up with a brand new song in a few days. Be sure to check out the description box below or review our channel for more critical news you can use. Thanks for tuning in to the Critic Chronicles YouTube channel, where you get commentary, reviews, and tabloid news. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload.